Hi, welcome back to my handmade wardrobe series where I'm using knitting, intentional spending, and capsule wardrobe strategies to build my dream wardrobe. In today's episode, I'm going to share the process of knitting two elevated basics intended to outlast trends and actually get worn. So grab your knitting, get cozy, and let's knit together. Before we dive into the knitting, I want to quickly revisit my winter capsule wardrobe inspiration and just explain my thought process behind choosing patterns that reflect the themes and goals of my capsule mood board. So, my mood board has a good mix of statement pieces with color and personality, but also neutral basic pieces that actually do the heavy lifting in a capsule wardrobe. And when I look at my closet, I notice that I lack those basic building block pieces that make getting dressed feel easy. I have some statement pieces already that have bold colors or silhouettes, but I don't have those pieces that quietly support everything else. So in this episode, I'm focusing on what I like to call basic but better. And these aren't boring basics with no personality. These are basics that have subtle details that bring style and elevate them while also remaining versatile. So without further ado, let's get into the knitting. The first piece I've chosen to add to my winter capsule wardrobe is one that's actually directly referenced in my inspiration, and that is a light gray heathered crewneck cardigan. And apologies that I didn't get more footage of the early stages of this knit. I actually started it before I decided to start my YouTube channel, but hopefully you still enjoy watching the rest of the process. Anyway, on my mood board, the piece that inspired this project is styled with a white top underneath and a cozy midi skirt, but I could also see it being easy to just throw on with any pair of bottoms and just instantly look put together without really trying too hard. Currently, I feel like I don't have anything in my wardrobe that serves this purpose, so to fill this wardrobe gap, I chose the My Dream Cardigan by Wool & Beyond. I absolutely fell in love with the details and the finishings of this cardigan. The rolled hems and the little dainty buttons look so feminine and just scream elevated basic to me. As for the yarn, I've chosen two yarns that are slightly different in color to give a heathered look. I opted for Knitting for Olive Merino in Cloudy Day and Issayer Alpaca 1 in Heathered Gray. And together I think they give that slightly heathered look with a subtle halo that's not too overwhelming and is just the look I'm going for. This is also a steeked cardigan, which will be a fun new challenge and a new skill for me to learn, so I'm super excited for this project and I have high hopes that it'll end up being a new go-to piece in my wardrobe. We've run into a fit issue. Can you tell what it is? So I've been working on the sleeve. You can see I've gotten pretty far. This sleeve is so dang tight. I had to yank it up my arm to even try it on, especially compared to the body. I feel like the body has a good amount of ease. I'm almost afraid it has too much ease. This is the tricky part with with being pregnant and trying to knit clothes to fit my non-pregnant body. It's a little bit hard when it comes to the try-on portion. So I'm just kind of relying on my knowledge, my previous knowledge. This sleeve is not going to do. Like I said, I had to yank this thing on. And I plan to wear this white shirt underneath it, but this simply won't do. I'm going to have to undo all of this, rip it all the way back. And I'm a little bit concerned because I feel like it's going to be a challenge to get it bigger. I'm going to start by not doing the decreases. I'm going to totally omit them. If I get down to this point that I'm at right now and I feel like it's kind of a bell sleeve, which is not what I'm going for, I will do a few decrease rounds, maybe 3 decrease rounds at the interval that it calls for in the pattern, and go from there. I'm a little bit concerned because this is a contiguous construction. It is unlike a drop shoulder where I could just pick up stitches and evenly distribute additional stitches so that I don't end up with one bulky area and they're all evenly distributed, even circumference. With this being a contiguous construction, these stitches, this stitch number was determined when I finished the yoke. And so really the only area that I have to play with and add more stitches is when I pick up under the arm. And I, of course, don't want to add a bunch of bulk under the arm. So I don't quite know what my plan is. I think what I will do is see if it's possible for me to pick up enough stitches and maybe do like some very discreet increases here close to where the yoke increases are in order to get the stitch count of the largest sleeve size. Okay, so in the end, it turned out that I was like way off in my stitch count for the sleeves. I had fewer stitches in the sleeve than I should have for my size. So I was able to pick up enough to get to the correct stitch count for my size. And then what I did was, just like I said before, I omitted the decreases, but then I did do 3 decrease rounds at the cuff in order to prevent a bell sleeve. And I think it looks really nice. I really love the rolled hems and I'm excited to steek this. All right, y'all, the time has come. I'm gonna try and steek this cardigan. Here it is. I have an old swatch here because, as I mentioned, I didn't make a swatch for this and I simply can't be bothered to make a new one. So I'm gonna use an old one that I already have. And I have my machine threaded up with gray yarn. And we're just gonna try. I've never sewn on a knitted fabric before, hand knit. So we will see. I've got it set to just your standard zigzag. And this will also be good because then I can see how wide I need to make it. Needs to be wider. Ooh. Okay, that looks really good. I don't know that you're gonna be able to see that. I'm gonna go for it. So the tricky part is that, you know, it's 2 layers, obviously, and I can only be sewing on the 1 layer. So I'm thinking I'm gonna have to somehow get all of this all through. And then isolate the front. Boom. Okay. Think we're good. Moment of truth. Okay, I think we have one side secured. But did I get the right stitch? Yeah, I think so. All the way down. Yeah. Okay, that was a success. However, we've run into a different problem because I ran out of thread. At the end, there's this much thread left. Now I have another gray, but it's like pulling weird with a bunch of tension. And that's the only other, like I can't even pull that. So that's not gonna go through my machine smoothly. So I'm gonna have to think of another color that might work. I could do white. Maybe I'll do white. I don't think it, I mean, it's not gonna show. But yeah, it's not gonna show. So I'll do white. Okay, we went with brown because the white one wouldn't, for whatever reason, these cheapos are just not unraveling well. Anyway, we are set for the second side. So we're gonna do the same thing and hope it goes as smooth as the first side. It's going good. We did it! Oh my gosh, look at that. That is pretty dang good for my first time steeking, if I do say so myself. You guys, I'm so proud of myself. Look at this. You can't see a thing. Wow. Well, the sewed edge is working. You can see it's all trying to fray, but it looks beautiful on this other side. So the next step is to pick up and knit the button bands, just like normal. And then after that, it sounds like you pick up from the wrong side and you knit a little placket to encase all of these frayed edges so that there are no raw hems or seams anywhere. And that should lock it all in place even further. So that's the next step. Let's get going. And here she is in all her glory. I am so pleased with how this garment turned out. To be honest, I was doubting myself through the whole process. I wasn't convinced my yarn combination was going to look good. I had spent so long trying to find the perfect light heathered gray, and even though the knitting experience was nice with this yarn, and I knew that the Knitting for Olive Merino and Issayer Alpaca 1 were tried and true yarns, I was still unsure if the final look would be what I wanted. But after all the finishing details were done and it was blocked, I actually am so thrilled with how it turned out. I feel like this combo really nailed the nuance of the type of gray fabric I was going for. I love that the halo is subtle, yet the piece still looks plush and soft. I think the subtle marl effect is just present enough to add visual interest and depth to the fabric without being too busy or high contrast. I'm also pleasantly surprised with the fit. As you guys saw, I had some issues with the fit of the sleeves during the process of making this garment. Somehow I miscounted my stitches while working the yoke, and that caused a lot of issues down the road. But I was able to fix those issues and get a sleeve that fits really nicely. I modified the decreases a bit to try and maintain the positive ease, especially around the upper arms, and I'm happy with the results. I will say that I knit the sleeves to the length specified in the pattern, and they turned out just right for me, but I do have long arms, And usually I have to add several centimeters to most knitting patterns to get my sleeves to a reasonable length. So if you knit this, just make sure to try it on and keep track of how long your sleeves are getting. As for the steeking process, for my first time, I feel like it went really smooth. Honestly, I had more trouble threading my machine with the cheap, poorly spun spools of thread that I had than the actual steeking process itself. I'm glad it was a good experience because I do have plans to steek a couple more projects later this year. So if you're eyeing this pattern but you're intimidated by the steeking, I'd say let this video be my vote of confidence for you. You can do it. Anyway, since finishing this piece, I have been wearing it a lot, and I definitely think it hits the mark as an elevated basic wardrobe staple that I foresee doing a lot of heavy lifting in my closet for years to come. The second pattern I've chosen is less of a direct reference to my inspiration, but it does take into account a few details that I've been drawn to and that are reoccurring themes on my mood board. This season I've been really drawn to texture, turtlenecks, woolly yarn, chocolate brown, and again those intentional little details that elevate a piece from boring to boring but better and infuse a little subtle personal style. So for this, I've decided to go with the twist loop sweater by Other Loops. For the yarn, I'm using a gorgeous wool yarn that I've used before, and that is Knit Picks Simply Wool Worsted. I chose the color Wallace, and this is a totally undyed 100% wool yarn, and it provides such a beautiful finished fabric. I noticed last time that I used it that it made my ribbing look so neat and even, so I thought it would be perfect for a sweater that is all over ribbing. A couple details I love about this pattern, which allow it to fit into that goal of basic but better, are the occasional unique cable details throughout, as well as the decreases on the sleeves, which are intentionally made visible to create like a sculptural detail. Again, I hope for this knit to become an easy throw-on piece when I don't know what else to wear that goes with everything and is effortlessly chic. I'm excited to add this garment to my winter capsule wardrobe and see how I style it. I have been working on my twist loop sweater. and it is coming along beautifully. So you can see it has all over ribbing. So it's a 2x3 rib. It's a little bit, scrunched up right now because it is ribbing. It'll relax with blocking. But it has that beautiful central cable down the middle. I've done one cable repeat and I'm in the middle of the second one. And you can see the ribbing is worked right into the raglan shaping. And when it's blocked, that will balloon nicely and spread out and be the exact look that I want. I have made a couple modifications. The first modification is that I altered the neckline slightly. With the original pattern, what it calls you to do is cast on for the neckline stitches, knit in the rib, fold it over, sew it down, and then continue the yoke from there. The only thing that is problematic with that is that it forces you to finalize the neck before you've done any other portion of the sweater. And I don't quite know if I'm going to do a mock neck, a folded neck, or a turtleneck, but I kind of want to wait until I have the whole garment done, or at least a good portion of it done, before I do the neckline so I can really see what it's going to look like all together. So what I did is I looked ahead in the pattern and I just skipped ahead to the part where you start the yoke. So I cast on the number of stitches that was appropriate for my size. And then I did one establishing round without any raglan shaping or anything, or German short rows. And then from there, I just continued with the pattern. You start with German short rows and do raglan shaping at the same time. And it worked out great. So now I'll just go back in later and pick up stitches and knit from here up to determine what kind of collar I want. The other modification that I made was that I made the yoke depth not quite so deep. When I was knitting, I was keeping track of, how many stitches I have in my sleeves and seeing how many more raglan increase rounds I needed to do. And if you know anything about raglan construction, you know that you increase every other round. And so for every increased round, you actually have 2 rows of length added to the yoke. And for the number of stitches that it called for the sleeves, for my size, I was gonna, at this point, I was here, and I was still off by 20 rows. And that was just getting really deep for me. I don't like a deep yoke. I don't really want it to be like at my elbow because I find it's not as flattering as I'd like. And 2, when you go to raise your arms, the body of your sweater like comes up way more if your yoke depth is low. And it feels just kind of bulky around that area to me. So I saw that in the Ravelry projects that other people also made that modification. I basically just split for sleeves before I got to the correct yoke depth, I guess. And I measured mine based on another raglan oversized sweater that I like the yoke depth of. That does mean that I'm off in my stitch count a good bit. So what I did was I cast on more stitches under the arm in order to get up to that same count. Although after doing a couple inches of the body, I have realized I'm still off by about 10 stitches. But I'm kind of just going with it. Might just have to stretch it a little bit when I block it, but I don't really want to rip it back. And the sleeves, though, I was not off by quite that much, so I think it'll be fine. So last I checked in, I was working on the yoke, and I had just finished the yoke and starting on the body. I have since knit the whole body, and I've started on a sleeve, and I am just about done with the second cable repeat on the sleeve. So I remember that I mentioned to you guys, oh shucks, stitches down, stitches down. Okay, got that. I remember that I mentioned to you guys last time that I had the wrong stitch count on the sleeves because I shortened the yoke depth. And it turned out that I was off by 15 stitches. So I was able to pick up enough. That's actually a really good view there. This is the underarm here. I was able to pick up enough between here and here to get all the way up to the correct stitch count. So I'm working per the pattern now, and I don't think it looks too bulky under the arm at all. I think it'll look really good. I'm super happy with this so far. I think it's looking really pretty. I love using the little shorty circulars. I don't know what you guys prefer. Do you do magic loop or DPNs? I always find that I get a gap with like a ladder if I don't use shorties. So yeah. Any other notes? I don't think so. I think it's going well. So I think the plan is going to be to finish both sleeves and then pick up the neckline, because then I'll be able to really see how it looks all together. Because as I mentioned also, I'm a little bit unsure how I want the neckline, and that is why I have made that modification so that I can make that decision last. Hey, so I think last time I updated, I was just starting the sleeve. I have since knitted up until done according to the pattern. So I've done the shaping. How pretty. Oh, I love this detail. This is one thing that really drew me to this pattern. So the decreases are actually done as part of the design. So it's like a design element. However, I've knit the ribbing. It calls for 5 centimeters of ribbing, and you can see it's like super short. I have this problem a lot when I'm knitting sweaters where the sleeves are just too short, and so I usually end up lengthening them. So with this one having the decorative decreases, I'd have to just lengthen the ribbing, and I'm thinking I might double it from 5 centimeters to 10 centimeters. Because although I expect this to grow with blocking, with ribbing like this, it's going to expand out a lot. And so that's going to probably bring the length up, I think. So I don't actually think I'm going to get very much length in the sleeve from blocking. So I think I'm going to just compensate for that and knit a 10 centimeter rib on the cuff. And that's a pretty common length for a cuff, and I like how it looks. It won't match the body, but if I do a tall neck, I think that will tie it all together. So I think that is the plan. I'm going to go ahead and do that. and then start the second sleeve. Okay, here she is, all blocked and finished. I am also really pleased with how this piece turned out, and I had a ton of fun knitting this pattern. I was honestly kind of sad when I finished it because I loved working with the yarn so much, and the pattern was really enjoyable. It had a nice balance of simple mindless knitting, but also points throughout that kept me engaged. I loved working the cable repeats and using them kind of like checkpoints to track my progress. As for the fit, I again was off with a few stitch counts, much like the last project. However, this time it was due to that intentional modification I made to shorten the yoke depth. And in the end, I was able to easily modify my stitch counts for the sleeve and the body to get close to, if not exactly what the pattern recommended. But you can see that the yoke depth of my modified version still turned out fairly deep and oversized. So I'm glad I made that modification because anything lower than what I ended up with probably would have bothered me. I do wish that the fabric had a little more drape to it, but I think this yarn should continue to soften up with wear and washing. I'm really pleased with my yarn choice though because I think the color is exactly what I was going for, and it creates a really breathable fabric that isn't too hot, even with the turtleneck. Which, speaking of the neckline, I'm glad I went with the turtleneck. I think it really suits the design of this sweater, and personally I find that I enjoy wearing turtlenecks in winter for both aesthetic and practical reasons. In the end, I think this garment also hit the mark of an elevated wardrobe staple piece that I foresee myself loving for several years to come. It's got a classic style that I think will outlast trends and lend itself to being styled in many different ways as my style evolves. Thank you so much for joining in the process of knitting these two projects. I love sharing my progress and just feeling like I'm knitting with a friend. I have a couple more projects that I'm hoping to complete this season, so stay tuned for another knitting diary. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.